Hey, and welcome back to You Build Terrain. We're in the last step of learning about how to do this piece from Battle for Macragge. Today I'll be walking you through step by step how to do the flocking and static grass and those kind of things. Just like on this piece, I'm going to teach you all the tips, tactics, and strategies to doing this really well on all your terrain. And today we'll just, walk through all of that so that you have a good understanding of how to do this and do it well for your terrain. So that'll be the last step in this piece. The only thing that I'm going to do off camera that I won't be showing is I'm going to be using, a matte varnish top coat to cover all these at the very end, just to kind of give it that extra protection versus wear and tear over time. The bonus material, though, I will be getting into after this video, and I'm going to preview it here for just a second. Hold on. I'm back. I picked up or snagged this piece of Forge World from somebody at a local store that was pretty much giving it away because it had dropped and broken. And they were very frustrated, and maybe I took advantage of the situation, but I made sure with the guy like 5 or 6 times. Like, are you absolutely sure? Because I got this for a steal and I'm going to use it as a piece of terrain. Silly me. I'm sure I could work it and put it back together or whatever, but I actually think it's going to make a really slick piece of terrain to go along with this piece of terrain set from the Battle of Macragge. So I'm actually going to have another flyer, which could make one table really cool, or a couple of tables have a couple of flyers on them, which isn't bad. So I've got this, plus I think I got the other part of the wing, and just bad luck on their part. They dropped it and didn't want to fidget with it to make it go back together, which I think is crazy. But benefit to us is we get to play with this and make another piece of cool looking terrain as a bonus video to the set. And then after this set, I'm going to get into some other terrain techniques and things that we can work on so that we do more 40K, do a little bit of the old world, do some bolt action, and we're also going to do some Flames of War. Those are all the games that I'm currently playing with friends, and I like to make terrain, so we'll be talking about how to use some of these techniques across all of those games. Hills are hills, rivers are rivers, roads are roads, hedgerows are hedgerows, and can work for all of these different gaming tables. So we'll be going into all that. Anyway, stay tuned for the rest of this video where I'll walk through this technique and we'll build some more terrain soon. See ya. Okay, so to get started with this project, we're going to be using 2 different static grass types. One is more of a bead type and one is a traditional actual static grass. I'll just pull these open. That's what traditional static grass looks like. It's kind of clumpy looking, but it'll stick up. That's why it's called static grass. It actually uses static to make it stand up. And then we're also going to use this beaded one. It's more like a granule type. Now I'm going to use these 2 different places on the models to get that grass effect I'm looking for. Another thing I'm using is this. This will be used to gather, as I sprinkle this stuff out onto the terrain, I'll use this to funnel it back into the tub. So I'm just going to stick that here for now. I'll also be using my handy dandy ceramic tile with gloss finish. I am going to use a flat 1/2 inch big brush to put on the glue. I am just using traditional wood glue or light glue. I'm going to grab that too. Just regular old, PVA glue is what you're looking for when you're putting on static grass. And of course, I have my handy dandy cup of water, of course, and the paper towel. So oh gosh, that was loud. I'm gonna put this over here and we'll get started with this piece, and then we'll go through each piece as we do it. It shouldn't take very long. It's going to be really fast, but I'll kind of describe what I'm doing along the way. so that you can kind of see the action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the white PVA glue and put some out here. My bottle will cooperate. There we go. Now, it doesn't really matter if you use wood glue or white PVA glue. You just want one that'll dry transparent. I tend to use the white PVA glue because it's a little bit more transparent than the other. The other could end up with a slight yellow tinge, you know, like a wood glue or a glue that's more of a construction type glue. It'll have a little bit of a yellow twinge to it, where this will be absolutely completely transparent. And sometimes that matters to your miniature and sometimes it doesn't. But typically when I'm doing static grass, I just want it to be green. I'm going to use just the white PVA. All right, and then as you can see, I'm adding a little bit of water to it because I don't want it super thick. And of course, at the end of this, you're going to have to like super clean this brush, because if you don't, it'll be hard enough to go through 2x4. You know, the glue will stiffen this brush up. So at the end, you're going to just use a little bit of soap and mild, you know, like lukewarm water, and clean this completely before you finish in the evening with your project. Anyway, what you do is once you've mixed in a little bit of water, you just want to make sure this is mixed up really well. And then you're just going to put on the glue in a random pattern. It doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to put it, you know, you're just kind of picking out areas that you think it'll look interesting. Try to do organic shapes, not lines, because nothing really grows in lines in nature. Now, if there's tire tracks because it's a roadway or something, that might be different, you know, or a pathway where people walk. There might not be any grass in that pathway, but, you know, as you know, grass is kind of organic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the static grass on 2 areas, and then I'll switch over to the other on the other 2 areas. So I'm just going to kind of put a healthy dose. You want to kind of cover it up, but not be, it doesn't really matter if you like just dump it out on there. It's just, you don't have to be wasteful. I'm just doing a pinch at a time. And once you have it on there, you let it sit for just a second. I'm going to bounce it this way because, see, I don't want the static grass to get in the other areas of glue. But you can see the static grass is stuck on there and it looks like it's standing up. I don't know how much of that you can see, but it has that texture to it. So now I'm going to take this. I'll set that to the side for a second. The reason why we're using this sheet is it makes a handy dandy fundle for putting the static grass back in. And then I'm going to switch over to the other. All right, I'll take my piece again. Now I'm going to put this on the 2 other areas in the same technique. I don't have to make this super thick over the glue areas. You want it enough that it covers up the glue areas, but it's not like you have to put gobs and gobs of this to get the effect you're looking for. All right, I'll let that dry for just a second. You can see it's completely covered up. Knock off the excess. And if you can see that, that is the texture. It's just a completely different texture, this kind of knobby texture other than like a grass that's standing up. But anyway, there you go. That's what, you know, flocking or static grass and that type of thing look like on a base. And it gives this pop to the base so that it looks really cool. All right, I'm going to set that to the side. I'm just going to work into these others one at a time, doing the same process. And I will be a little bit quiet because there's not much to this, but I did want to show you all the tips and techniques. And I'll probably talk through this piece here, but then kind of go silent for a little bit while I finish the other 3. If you ever get the glue up on the miniature, you can immediately wipe it off, but it's not going to say that you won't get some of the texture of the static grass up on the miniature. it works for some things in terrain and others it just doesn't. So you really have to kind of be careful about making sure that you're not getting this on the miniature itself or the terrain itself, because it will look funny. There's no way around it. And the other thing is I try not to get it all the way right to the edge, because being all the way to the edge, it's just going to wear off over time. So having it right on the edge is not very helpful. I'm going to go back to that round flocking. And this one's just called green grass. It is from Army Painter. The other one is an older version of static grass from Games Workshop, but as you know, everybody makes these products now, and really you can get them from a variety of places. I tend to like the containers that Games Workshop and Army Painter do, because they seem very useful, but a lot of people are copying that. So there's this green grass on that. Shoot this back in here. And one other thing I've noticed is I've gotten just a little bit of glue on my background sheet here. I have to really get that off of there, because if you have glue up on here, of course you're going to be gluing grass to the sheet that's supposed to be funneling it back into the container, and that would be awful. All right, I'm going to switch back to the static grass. And even though you're piling it up pretty thick like that, you're not really wasting it, because like I said, all of it's going back into here. Whatever's not going to be used is going to go back into this container. All right, I'll just show you that right quick. See that static grass standing out? You can see a little bit of static grass up on the miniature, but all this stuff will end up blowing off when you go to matte finish this with your overcoat at the end. Some people would ask, should you do static grass before or after the the top coat, not primer, but the protectant on the top. I tend to do the protectant absolutely last, because in my estimation, doing the protectorant is the thing that's going to hold that flocking into place even more than the glue itself over time, because these things are going to, especially if you're just doing terrain for the house, or you and your friends maybe you're playing here and there, but if you go to a tournament, or if this terrain ends up in a store that's getting used all the time, man, the wear and tear on models like this is awful. And so you've got to take the time really to secure it in every way you can. That's why I always top coat over static grass or flocking of any type, just because I just feel like you need that extra layer of protection. And if you are using it at home, it's just going to make it last for that much longer. And some might ask, like, hey, you're putting this glue on, when would it be okay to do the top coat after this? I usually let it rest a whole day if you're going to be indoors. If you're going to be outdoors and you can actually get this into the sunshine, maybe you can get maybe like an hour in direct sunshine, or maybe a couple hours in indirect sunshine outside, that it's okay to go ahead and put that top coat on. Like if I was trying to hustle, I would definitely try to do this middle of the day, where I'm going to get direct sunshine that's a little bit warm, and I can actually get everything I need done faster because of that direct sunshine. I have to be really careful here, because I am going to mix up where my static grass is compared to the other stuff. So this will be just a little bit trickier when I go to shake things off. And I'm going to do still got some over here, but it's not the end of the world. This is actually a bigger problem. Came off my sheet. You're going to get static grass everywhere. You're going to see it for the next 3 days. Static grass is the worst. It sticks to everything. The other flocking typically is going to go back, in the canister all the time. And to help me out, as you can see, this grass the static charge is building up on the sheet of plastic. So I'm actually going to get a brush after it, and it's getting everywhere, But that's how static grass is. If you're going to do a ton of static grass all at once, or if you weren't flipping back and forth like I am, you're less likely to get cross-contamination like I just did in this glue. There's, flakes of static grass now in the glue, which is not great, but not the end of the world. I'm just going to add a little bit more glue. And we'll go back to watering that in just a second, but I do want to get back to this before this glue dries. And as you know, I put a little bit of static grass right in the edge of that section there, but I'm just going to leave it. You can mix inside one bit of glue. It's just harder to do. You just got to take your time with it. It is possible to do, so you could mix it all the time. I don't know that it makes your terrain look any better to mix it together in the same spots, but having two different pieces of texture to your flocking is a good thing. It does make it pop a little bit more to have it that way. That's why I'm using two different ones. All right, we'll take a look at that piece. You can kind of see that static grass right on the edge of that. That turned out pretty good. I'm happy with that. All right, set that one to the side. As you can see, this is, you're going to repeat the same steps over and over again, but when you're doing this for, say, like 18 pieces of terrain all at the same time, it's a lot to do. Luckily, we only have the 5 right now, and it's not so bad. And I do tend to do static grass. Like if I'm working on a pretty big project, let's say I'm doing a couple tables or maybe 3 tables of terrain at a time for like an RTT, or I'm putting together some stuff for me and my friends to play on tables at the house, and I want to do it all at the same time, just because, like I said, the static grass is just a little bit messy. Depends on what kind of flocking you're using on your terrain, but I tend to do it in one day and then completely clean up, because you really don't want this all over the place, and it does. And you certainly don't want it in your miniature paint. In your miniature paint is the worst. Then you'll end up with this flaky kind of static grass stuff. Sorry, my dog, if you can hear him, is trying to protect me from somebody walking down the street. But anyway, yeah, static grass in your miniature paint is going to be horrible. It will show up, and then you'll have this random strand of static grass, like a hair sticking out, and you'll be very frustrated by it. So I do recommend not doing this while you're painting miniatures. Definitely put all of that stuff away, your projects away, and only have the terrain you're going to do flocking on out, because it's going to go everywhere. There's no way around it. All right. Okay, let's see if I can do this without. Yeah, that's good. You can see I'm tapping it from the back. That helps just to get off that excess. All right. Now, you noticed I did a bigger section over here, but really what's going on is I had some sections where the sand just was absolutely off of the terrain piece. And so there was just flat places in the terrain. I find those good places to put the static grass or some kind of flocking, just so it looks a little bit more presentable. Having, you know, no sand or texture is not great on terrain if you want it to look good on the tabletop. All right, just tap that down just a little bit. With static grass, tapping it down is not a bad thing. With the other, I definitely wouldn't do it. All right, there you go. Take a look at that one. Bigger texture of grass over here, but that looks pretty good. All right, down to my last one. Okay. This one's going to be trickier because I can't fit it all on to my piece of plastic here. So I'm going to do one side and then the other to try to mitigate my issues. All right. I'll cheat just a little bit here. Use the brush. It's not the best thing in the world to use because you can cross-contaminate. Okay, so there we go. That is the next piece. Looking pretty good. And we are finished with putting on flocking. Like I said, the next step here is to top coat this. I'm going to blow off any of the static grass that's not stuck to anything. I'll brush it off with a bigger brush, but I'll do that tomorrow just to make sure that I don't have random static grass stuck in places, and then I'll top coat it. And that's it. Talk to you soon.